What choices would you make? A hot meal for your family or a warm home to sleep in? For millions in Britain, this isn't some dramatic question. It's a deadly reality, an impossible, gut-wrenching decision made in kitchens and living rooms across the country. This is the story behind the numbers, the human cost of a crisis that has a nation in its grip. It's a shadow hanging over the United Kingdom. The cost of living is now the single biggest concern for most Britain, with a majority of adults, 62%, saying their cost of living had increased compared to a month ago. It has surpassed every other worry, becoming a constant grinding pressure on households from the Scottish Highlands to the Cornish coast. The statistics are stark. In the 3 months leading up to January 2026, 88% of adults reported the cost of living as an important issue. It's no longer a fringe issue, it is a mainstream crisis. The Consumer Prices Index, CPI, rose by 3.4% in the 12 months to December 2025, an increase from 3.2% in November. For the people experiencing this, the outcome is brutally felt in the rising prices of food and the high cost of gas and electricity. A January 2026 report showed that many people are focusing their finances on simply living rather than planning for the future. The optimism for the future is bleak. This has gone way beyond tightening belts and is a fundamental threat to the well-being of millions. We always think of this as being numbers on the page, but this is not the case. To understand what those numbers really mean, I want to tell you about someone I know, a friend of mine. We'll call her Maria. She's a single mother of two in a small rented house in the northwest. She works full-time in a supermarket, a job once held as essential that now barely keeps her family afloat. Her day starts before sunrise, not with the gentle glow of a new day, but with the cold, hard dread of checking the prepayment meter. That little unforgiving box on the wall dictates their lives. A rent is a colossal weight on her shoulder. From April 2026, a national living wage is set to rise to £12.71 an hour. On paper, it sounds like progress. In reality, a gross annual income will be just under £26,500. After tax and national insurance, that small raise is instantly swallowed by the rising cost of everything else. A rent alone consumes a massive chunk of a take-home pay. This is a situation familiar to millions. A walk through the supermarket where she works is an exercise in painful arithmetic. She walks past the full-price items, the branded cereals her kids ask for, the fresh cuts of meat she knows she can't afford. A trolley is filled with yellow stickers items and the supermarket's own brand basics. While the worst of food inflation has passed, food prices still rose by 4.5% in the year to December 25. That percentage isn't an abstract number to my friend. It's the pack of biscuits she's had to put back, the argument she's had to have with her son about why she can't have his favorite yogurt. She's not making luxury purchases, but yet has to decide between one necessity or another. Does she put an extra £10 on electric meter to keep her heating on, or for a few more hours? Or does she use that £10 to buy enough chicken to last 3 meals instead of 2? That is the eat or hit dilemma in its most raw form. It is a choice no parent should have to make. And Maria's story isn't unique. Experts are clear that this is not a crisis of individual financial mismanagement. It is a systemic issue. For over a decade, the foundations of a secure life for working people in Britain has been eroding. As of early 2026, around 4.2 million people were living in poverty. The Joseph Rowntree Foundation calculates the minimum income standard. For those of you who do not know, the calculation is not to establish what the poverty line is, but instead what the public believe is needed for a minimum socially acceptable standard of living. Now consider this. My friend's working full-time on the new national living wage will earn a gross income thousands of pounds short of that minimum standard. She and millions like her aren't just falling short, they're miles away from it. The poverty in the UK is now deeper than it was in the mid-1990s. A recent analysis found a record 6.8 million people are in very deep poverty, meaning their income doesn't even cover absolute essentials. These aren't people struggling to save for holidays. We're talking about people struggling to survive. This crisis is not confined to young families or those on low-wage work. I was talking to some other friends recently, David and Lady NL, a couple in the late 70s living in the Midlands. They worked their whole lives, paid their taxes, and saved what they could. They own their home, so they don't have the crunching burden of rent or mortgage. And yet, they are struggling to put heating in the house they worked so hard for. Their income is a state pension. After the planned 4.8 rise in April 2026, a couple were both receiving the full new state pension would have a combined annual income of about £25,000. A decade ago, that might have afforded them a comfortable retirement. Now it feels like they're constantly fighting a losing battle. Their biggest fear is the energy bill. The energy price cap for the start of 2026 set a typical annual bill at £1,758. While this is below the nightmarish peaks of the crisis, it is still devastatingly high for those on fixed income. They receive the warm home discount, but measures like these feel like a sticking plaster on a gaping wound. They spend their days huddled in one room, the rest of the house left cold. They wear multiple layers indoors and go to bed early just to stay warm. Like my friend Maria, they make choices. The weekly roast dinner is a thing of the past. The car, once a symbol of their freedom, now sits in the drive, used only for essential hospital appointments. They are trapped in their own home, prisoners of a crisis they did nothing to create. The story of my friends Maria, David, and Eleanor are being echoed in millions of homes. The primary engine of this crisis is the runaway cost of housing. As of December 2025, the average private rent in the UK had hit £1,368 a month. Think about that. For someone on the minimum wage, that is a huge proportion of their pre-tax salary. In England, the average is even higher at £1,424. The national average also hides a story of a divided country. While rental inflation in London has slowed, in other regions, it remains painfully high. This crisis pockets of extreme hardship where wage growth stands no chance against the cost of a roof over your head. This pressure is felt by everyone, and the public's frustration is palpable. The government's handling of the crisis has faced widespread criticism, with many people seeing the problem not just as a result of global pressures, but as a government failure to take strong action, a reason commonly cited by the public for the crisis. The cumulative effect is devastating. People are skipping meals to feed their children. They are sitting in the dark to save on electricity. They're borrowing money not for luxuries, but for essentials. In November 2025, 22% of adults said they had to borrow more money or use more credit than usual in the last month. This is the reality of the eat or hit choice in action. A national emergency playing out in quiet desperation behind closed doors. When I last spoke with them, nothing had been resolved for Maria or for David and Eleanor. Maria is still at the supermarket, her brow furrowed as she weighs the cost of a block of cheese against a block of milk. David and Eleanor are sitting in their living room. The television is off to save power, listening to the wind rattle the window of their cold house. Their struggle is Britain's struggle, a story of a society where the fundamental promise that hard work leads to a secure life seems broken. It is a story of economic choices that has left millions stranded, facing an impossible dilemma. The numbers tell a story of economic strain, but the human reality is one of quiet suffering and resilience stretched to its breaking point. And I'm afraid to say that the struggle for millions is only just getting started. If this story resonates with you, share it and show the reality behind the numbers. And in the comments below, share your own experiences with the cost of living. It is vital these stories are heard. Thank you for watching.